Good afternoon, folks. This is Andy Pedraza with Special Effects Academy, the Forex trading room for February 16th of 2020. We'll be going through our standard agenda, a look at the prior week, our currency strength meter for the last 7 and 30 days, any fundamental announcements on our calendar, a look at the major pairs on the daily charts, any setups we see in progress, and a few words in conclusion. On the long-term ledger, no change. We didn't open or close any trades. The account is all cash right now. We're still looking for some trade that really attracts me, or more than one trade for a long-term opportunity. On the intermediate term, we continue doing very well. We had a gain of a couple of percentage points, I think, in the last week on realized gains, closed trades. We've opened about 6 trades, I think, in the past week. We've closed out a few at profit, and more importantly, we're carrying a very significant open profit right now to the tune of about 500 pips as multiple pairs continue moving in some very nice trends, which we'll see when we get to the charts. Had a gain as well as the prior week, but still 3.64% in a week's time is actually quite impressive. We had 6 trades open. 2 of them did close against us. The other ones gave us our gain. So we're up quite nicely on this account as well. As I mentioned, a nice up week across the board. We're trending nicely on multiple pairs. The pound and the euro remain the currencies to watch. They're the ones more likely to give us significant moves in the near future. Multiple pairs are either breaching long-term support resistance or on the verge of doing so. And as always, a reminder, our live event is happening on April 29th, 30th, and May 1st of this year in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Details are on the website, and I've also started sending out emails with offers and signups and what seeing those as well. At our relative strength meter for the past 37 days, not much change on volatility. For the 30-day, it remains above 4.5%, so it's trending quite nicely. On the weekly, it went down slightly, but it's still very impressive, 1.78%. That's quite good. Looking at some of the movements, we can see for the monthly that the Aussie, the Euro, and the Kiwi are pretty much our losers, with the CAD and the Swiss being middle of the pack. The pound had some very nice gains in the past 30 days as all the Brexit stuff seemed to quiet down. The yen, of course, was also a big mover as in the up direction, as was the US dollar. Silver was sort of gave up some gains, some didn't much, but gold was or is a quite impressive mover in the last 30 days. For the last week, Aussie middle of the pack, Canadian made some gains against everybody except Kiwi and pound. The Swiss got pummeled. The euro, of course, got pummeled, and we'll see this when we look at the charts. The pound made some nice gains last week. The yen had a, I guess it weakened against most of the currencies. It only gained against the Swiss and the euro. However, it is in a very tight sideways band still, so there's no telling which way it's going to go. Kiwi did a bit of a nice recovery against everybody except the pound. US dollar, middle of the pack, though again, impressive movement against the euro. Silver, I'm sorry, once again fared poorly for the week, with gold outperforming. Fundamental announcement schedule for this week. We've got a pretty full calendar, but not a whole lot of things I would like to trade. Some of them simply because I don't see them as big movers on the currencies, and some of them because they're simply inconvenient. For example, the the British employment numbers coming out Tuesday morning. They come out at 4:30 in the morning. I don't expect them to move the needle that much regardless of what happens. Certainly not enough to justify getting for a 4:30 a.m. trading session. So if it were at any other time, I would very likely trade it, but not at 4:30. So the ones that we will be trading, we have the Reserve Bank of Australia's meeting minutes tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. So we'll be doing our evening session a bit early to accommodate that. The schedule will be in the email that goes out later today. And we also have employment numbers out of Australia coming out on Wednesday, also at 7:30 p.m. So that day we'll also be having our evening session a bit earlier. Nothing else on the calendar that I would like to trade. Perhaps the ECB monetary policy meetings account on Thursday, but again, it's at 7:30 a.m. That's sort of like middle of the night for me. I'm sound asleep. So again, I just choose not to trade that one. Starting with commodities, with oil, we can see that it went all the way to the bottom of the chart and then kept going very slightly before bouncing up. That bottom of the chart is a very strong level of support. So if anybody's actually trading oil, this is a good time to get in, because I seriously doubt it's going to go any lower than the 50 range. So it's got all upside and very little downside. You can see that it has continuously found support at that level at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the visible portion of the chart, which is a little bit less than a year. So this is a good time to be buying into oil futures, companies that trade oil on the shares on their stock exchange, etc. I don't do that directly. I do trade it indirectly. If anybody is tracking oil, I would say that this is a good buying opportunity. Moving on, currencies, dollar, as I mentioned, euro dollar completely broke the bottom of the chart. So it's lost all support and just kept going. We would have to zoom out to weekly and monthly charts to see lower levels of support. So right now, the euro seems to be in free fall. Euro dollar is just constantly going, giving lower lows almost every single day for the past 10 or so days. We're carrying an open profit in excess of 200 pips on one open trade on the euro dollar. And that's after having taken profit on an earlier trade at some point. I forget how far back, but we've been pretty much trading it down since it broke the trend line sometime at the beginning of the year. And it's been performing very nicely for us. Trade as long as it continues moving in our direction. Dollar has been here more than a week ago. It broke the level of support at the 130, kept going for a bit, and then U-turned. Now it is above that level of support once again. Very erratic. It's just moving in both directions depending what time slot you pick, so it doesn't make for good trading. We will set up entries again on the pound pairs via pending orders to trade them in either direction. This is still a very bearish chart. I still think the pound dollar is going to go significantly down, but we don't trade on what I think. We trade on what the charts are actually showing us. So we'll put some triggers to take us in either direction, depending where the next price movement takes us. USD has hit the have very strong resistance at the 110.32. We did trade it up. I forget if last week or this week. We made a few pips trading the USD/JPY. It is in a very curious position. It could very well continue going up. So if it does break resistance, we're probably going to see a very good trend up that will take us a month or two into that movement. If that happens, there's also a pretty high likelihood that it's going to turn around in the opposite direction and start looking for the bottom. Either way, this is another one where we're going to have to wait and see exactly what happens before we trade it. So patience. US Canadian has hit resistance and done a U-turn, but it hasn't broken the next level of support. This is one I'm watching with a lot of interest. If it does support, I'm going to in short and see how far down we can ride it, or if it does break resistance, again, I'm going to go in long. This is another one that seems to be waiting to find a direction. I will note that the CAD is doing actually pretty well against most other currencies. It simply collapsed against the dollar for whatever reason. That might give us an even bigger opportunity to trade it back down when things rebalance themselves. So another one that bears watching, but it's not ready for it yet. You down to the bottom and headed to the top. It is crossing the Ichimoku cloud right now on the daily, about to come out on the top. We've been trading this one since it broke up quite a while back. I think we're carrying 100 or so pips of open profit, and our target for profit is very near the top at the parity level, where $1 equals on to that trade as long as it does keep performing. I should also note that, as we usually do, most of these trades, or all of them that have any significant profit, we do start adjusting the stop loss to protect some of that in case the market turns. Broke, but quickly bounced back up, hit the next level of resistance, is showing a lot of downward pressure. We can see those very long wicks on candles telling us that the market, or rather the bulls, tried to drive the market up and completely failed consecutive times. Every single day they tried, every single day they failed, and finally on Friday it started breaking towards the bottom again. So this is a very bearish indicator. If we weren't short, we should be going short at this point and seeing how far down we can ride it. Much like the euro dollar, there is a very high possibility that it will break the bottommost level of support and keep going, giving us a nice long-term trade to ride. So a lot of these are just shy of hitting the point where we would open a longer-term trade. Key nice drop the week before. This week it did a bit of a retrace, but not a heavy one. It hit resistance and started going down towards the middle of the week. So it's still following the downward trend. Nicely bearish. We've got an open trade, a re-entry after we took profit on that spike at the beginning of the week. So we're in our, I don't know how many trades we've taken on this, but we've been writing it down since the break of the trend line all the way at the top, and we'll continue doing so as long as it keeps going down. So no change to that. All the Canadian is for levels. They're looking, and the Aussie is weak. The CAD is strong. We're getting stronger. This is another one of those candidates for a break of the bottom and for it to keep going and establish a new price range. So another one that we're eagerly watching to look for that opportunity for a longer term play. What can I say? Another one that broke bottom. This was probably the early warning system that the euro was breaking. It broke the bottom all the way back in either late December or early this year, back in this area. This was the prior bottom of the daily chart. So here it broke. It just kept going, establishing lower lows all the time, and it is still doing that. So we're now significantly below the most recent lows on the daily, and it is not stopping. So this gave us early warning that something was happening to the euro. Last week we saw the Swiss weaken significantly, but not against the euro. Very small movement back up that on Friday already started failing and heading down. So let's watch and see what the Euro Swiss does as this week begins. We've got an open trade. I think we're close to 200 pips of profit on this one as well, open profit. So we'll continue letting that ride and see how far it on euro weakness, a little bit of pound strength as well, but it has yet to break the bottom of this chart that was established back in early December. So that 82.75 is still holding. We'll have to see if it does pierce. If it does, we're going to go in short. But I think it's far more likely at some point we will see a trade as well. We are carrying profit, and it ended the week right at another level of support at the 118.85. And this is another one where I'm waiting for the week to begin to see where it takes us, if it's going to go any deeper. It probably will. My target on this trade remains the very bottom of the chart, around the 116 area. So that's still another 300 pips to go. And indeed, it may go even deeper. Euro of the daily and kept going. We've got an open trade on this one as well. Some profit already protected. And again, we can't predict how far these things will go. It could drop all the way to 140, to 130, to 120. There's no clue until it actually does. So continue riding these trends, protect profit as much as we can, take profit every time it's offered to us, and let the market do its thing. We're just spectators who get paid for watching. Sideways range. We had the pound gain strength last week, so we can see that most of the candles are bullish candles. Not a whole lot of movement, no, though. Didn't pierce the cloud. Next level of resistance has not rejoined the trend line, so we're still waiting for it to break in either direction. My gut feeling is that it's going to break down, but again, we don't trade gut feelings. We wait for it to actually happen. Very wild swings going up, down. It did end the week with a lot of bearish sentiment as the price up and failed, much like another chart we were looking at earlier. So it's looking like a nice bearish opportunity. We did get taken in late Friday, right at market close. We got taken into a short position on Aussie JPY. So it's a little bit worse than break even right now. I think we're about 20 pips down as the market started. And of course, we're waiting to see that bearish so that is our first trade. It's really the last trade of last week, but it's the first trade of this week because it never got reported. It happened exactly at market close. So we'll see how the week begins and adjust accordingly. I will be reporting that that trade in the next summary that goes out. Breaking support. However, most of the movement was on a single day on Wednesday, and it happened extremely fast. We caught a bit of it on the short term on one of the fundies last week, but we didn't catch the bulk of the move. And for longer term trades, we really were not prepared for that drop. I did not think it was going to continue because it dropped too far, which indeed is what happened. So it never actually broke support at the 168. I'll be waiting to see how it starts. We might jump in either direction. Pound is sideways range right now, trading towards the top of that range as pound strength last week made this one head up. It is right underneath resistance. Again, gut feeling, I think this one is going to break down, but we're not going to be entering any trades, obviously, until it does start moving. And pound Swiss, as I mentioned, the Swiss did have a bad week. We'll see if it starts regaining. If it does, if the Swiss starts getting stronger, this one is going to be an easy 300 pips to recapture on that movement. We'll see. Of course, it could continue heading up. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now, mainly as a result of whatever effect that has on global commerce. As most of you probably know, half of the cheap crap we get at our Walmarts and Targets and other stores in the US does come from China. And I say cheap crap very lovingly. I mean, I love our cheap crap. It allows us to buy stuff that we use, that we consume for very low prices. But at the same time, supply chains are starting to get impacted in China, which means the next shipment of cheap crap might be severely delayed. And that is going to affect the economy of everyone. And when news that the coronavirus isn't as dire as they're saying comes out, then the haven currencies like the yen and the Swiss, they get weaker. And then when bad news comes out of China, the haven currencies, the yen and the Swiss, get stronger again. So it's doing that dance. Until we have a resolution on this coronavirus, which seems to be the main event right now, we're going to be caught in a roller coaster on both Swiss and yen pairs. So be careful with that. That's a little bit of an explanation of what's happening now with the pound Swiss, and it could turn down just as easily as it turned up. So be careful, but be ready to trade it, I guess is what I'm saying. In progress as the week begins. The pound pairs, I just mentioned this. The pound pairs are very erratic. I think that they're, even though they're trying to look stronger, we've seen pound strength. I don't think it's looking good mid to long term. So I would expect at some point some sort of trending towards the bottom on the pound pairs, which again, a gut feeling, a very educated and experienced gut feeling. So take that as you will. The dollar, it's looking good based on the most recent events, but how good can it get? I asked that last week. Well, apparently it can get pretty good. So the results we've seen from the dollar, especially against the euro, against the Swiss, have been quite impressive. The last week, we'll see how far that can continue. The CAD continues struggling against the dollar, but doing pretty well in all the other crosses, hanging on to its gains. So I think the USD CAD is a prime example of an opportunity right there waiting to happen. So we're going to keep a close eye on that one because at some point the CAD is going to catch up and it's not going to look good. The USD CAD is going to drop towards the bottommost levels of support. Again, gut feeling, but a very educated and experienced gut feeling. The yen, it's bouncing. I just pretty much explained why it's a haven currency, and when people look for haven, it gets stronger. When people don't need haven, it gets weaker, and it's been doing that roller coaster around the coronavirus for a while now. Eventually, something will happen for good or ill on the coronavirus situation, and the yen is going to have a good run into strength or into weakness. No way to know. So be prepared for it. But for now, it's going to be a pretty bumpy ride. The euro pairs, of course, the euro is in free fall. We've seen this in pretty much every chart that we track with the euro, and we're riding profit on multiple euro trades, and we'll continue doing that for as long as it continues delivering. That's it for my for the bulk of my presentation. Final words in conclusion. And again, I get asked many things throughout the weeks, and I usually focus on something that struck me for, again, for good or bad. This time I'm going to talk about that secret, that whatever it is that makes some people great traders. They have some magic system, some holy grail. They've got something that they don't tell anyone, but there are no secrets. I personally am not successful because I know some magic technical signal, and I get asked this all the time. Well, what's your trade-in signal for entries? How come you do so well? And people think that I just don't want to share it with anyone. That there is no magic anything. I'm successful because I take many small risks and they have asymmetrical payoffs. What does that mean? It means that I take a small risk, but I might get a huge profit every now and then. That's asymmetry, and that in our favor if we're doing it right. So I throw dollars around like they were worthless. And every now and then I pick up $100 bills as a result. And I never lose $100 in order to gain 100. So throw out your dollars, pick up the larger bills. That's what it takes to be successful in the market. Does it help to know how to read a chart or have some method or system to get entries? Of course. You don't want to be taking random trades, but that alone is not going to get you anywhere. The important thing is not selecting the trades. The important thing is managing your risk and managing your money. And also, I'm successful because I do this day in and day out. I'm showing up every single day. So what does that mean? That I'm successful because I am treating trading as a business. This is not a hobby. It's not a game. It's something I do every single day, and I treat it with that respect. If there's a secret, that's it. I've been adding this slide to the presentations for a while, and I'll keep on adding it and repeating it. I'm trying to see how I can help more people, how I can get the word out to more people of what we're doing, help them in their trading, trade for them via the copy trader if that's the case. And again, I'm not trying to grow the business or get more income or anything like that. I'm honestly trying to help out more people. So if you have any ideas, and some of you have already sent me suggestions, keep sending them, send them to my email. I'll be very grateful if you do. And that is going to be the end of my session for this start of the week. Do I have any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, thank you very much. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Reminder, we will be starting early because we have a fundie out of the RBA. So we'll be starting our evening session probably around 7:15. The announcement comes out at 7:30. I will put that in the summary email as well. Thank you very much for being with us, and see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.